Yo, what is going on, everybody? Shri Kanase here. So my worst dropshipping mistakes of all time. Now, it's no secret that everybody makes mistakes. Even those people that are YouTubers or so-called gurus and experts have made mistakes. And the biggest difference between those people who are somewhat at the top level and compared to somebody who's not where they want to be is the amount of mistakes these people have made. Oftentimes, experts make a lot of mistakes because that is, in my opinion, the best way to learn when it comes to Shopify dropshipping or just running an e-commerce store in general. And this is no different for me because in my journey of the past 3 years doing e-commerce almost full time, what I've come to understand is that I've made a lot of mistakes, but I've always learned from these mistakes and have actually found better opportunities because of these mistakes. So this video is one video you're going to want to watch until the end if you want to kind of avoid doing the same mistakes I did and take advantage of these mistakes so you continue to be successful with Shopify dropshipping, because yes, it is still possible to be very, very successful doing Shopify dropshipping. Without wasting any more time, let's just jump right into it and find out exactly what these mistakes were. So the first thing you'll actually have to do before you benefit from any of these mistakes is to just gently destroy that like button down below. It'll take just 2 quick seconds. Okay, hopefully you've done that. But my first and most important mistake is that I was just adding and researching products when I was new on Shopify dropshipping just for the sake of adding or researching instead of actually following the numbers and following the criteria. Because one thing you want to understand is that product research is one of the most important tasks you can do for your business. And if you don't really pay attention to it and if you don't really do it the right way, your Shopify dropshipping store will most likely fail, unfortunately, even if you do everything else right. Because again, product is king. It took me many months and almost about 2 years to even realize this, because in the beginning I would just throw up random products that I saw on Facebook because they somewhat matched my criteria or because I had a feeling that they were good products. This almost always led me to just lose money with Facebook. There were many times where I was in the negative in a lot of the months while doing Shopify dropshipping in my earlier time. I can easily say that a lot of the reasons why I was so unprofitable during those times, especially using Facebook ads, is because I was just not putting enough time researching the right products, adding the right products in the right way. Now I've made a lot of videos on how to do it the right way, but back then it was a little bit of a foreign subject for me. And this again was one of my biggest mistakes, but also one of the biggest learning points for me, because that's when I understood that if I don't have the right product, no matter what else I do, no matter what kind of ads I run, it's just not going to work out, period. So that is my number one mistake, and one mistake you definitely want to avoid, especially if you're dropshipping in 2020. This brings me to my next mistake on the list, and that is not having enough credit line during scaling. There were many times when I would simply get lucky and come upon a good product which started to sell well. One of these products was in the relationship niche, which I happened to just come across during late December and early January, which is when Valentine's Day is just approaching. Because I was able to find that product during the right time, it was very easy for me to just start scaling that product. However, once I started to scale that product, I realized that scaling is actually the easy part. The hard part is keeping up with the orders, keeping up with supplier payments, keeping up with Facebook ads payments, because one thing I didn't have was a good credit card during that time period. And the one I had didn't have much of a big credit limit. So what happened is I ended up borrowing a lot of money from other people, and it just put me in the wrong spot during the wrong time, because during scaling, my main focus should have been just to increase my sales as much as I could and just to milk it out until Valentine's Day approached. Unfortunately, I was not able to do that because I was so busy solving these other problems, especially with the credit limits and trying to just get enough money to pay my ads and my supplier. So what happened was that because of this, I was not able to scale to the limit, and I did much less in sales than what was projected and what could have been done. So if you continue to test the right products, if you continue to add the right products to your store, eventually you will come across that main winning product. You want to make sure that you are ready with the right amount of credit and have multiple credit cards or multiple ways to get money when you start scaling that product. Because again, if you follow the other criteria I have on my YouTube videos, if you follow the strategies, you will achieve that level of success one time or another. But then you want to make sure again that you have the right amount of credit cards and the credit limit to support that kind of scaling, because this is where a lot of people fail and they end up just not being able to fulfill their orders, or they get problems with their Facebook ads account and it gets banned, and that is when the real problem starts. So always make sure you have enough credit. But this brings me to the third point, which is sticking to a dying product for too long. Once I started to scale that winning product and Valentine's Day came closer and closer, I noticed that my product was starting to die out. My sales were starting to just lower significantly. Instead of just being smart about it and just moving on to another niche or another product, I continued to advertise that product in hopes that it would continue to sell post Valentine's Day, because people are always in relationships. They would make great use of the products that I was selling. And that was one of my biggest mistakes, because that whole niche is somewhat seasonal and does high numbers during the pre-Valentine's Day or pre-holiday seasons. But from Q2 all the way up to Q3 and even some parts of Q4, it is a very, very slow niche. And I did not know this at the time. So I ended up just wasting money unnecessarily advertising that product for the whole year. And sure, I would make some profit on one day, but then I would lose some of it on the other day. So it was kind of like a roller coaster ride where it was just a lot of ups and downs and no real profits at the end of the month. So that is one of the biggest mistakes I did. A lot of people often get attached to their product, to their store, to their niche when doing dropshipping with Shopify. And that is one thing you definitely don't want to do if you want to continue being successful with Shopify. After a product has started to die out and after you have done your due diligence and tried to find ways to make that product come back to life, but it still hasn't worked, that is when you know that it's time to move on to something else. And this is something I realized a little bit too late, and this cost me a lot of money as a result. But definitely move on from a product once it has reached its limit. And this brings me to the next point on my list, and that is focusing on just one winning product instead of finding multiple winning products. This is again something I did in my early years because I believed that focusing on just one thing is the right way to go, whether it's the one store or one niche or one product. And that was one of my biggest mistakes, because focusing on one product, sure, it's a good way to go in the beginning. If it's a winning product, you will be able to provide a much better service. Your store will be much more branded, etc. But once that product starts to die out, that's when real problems start to arise, because upsells and downsells will only help for so long until that main product goes out of demand. And this does happen because not every product is evergreen. In fact, there's very, very few products in the world which are really evergreen. So in that case, you'll be just left scrambling to find more ways to make more money, to get the sales going back up again. And in most cases, you will also see that it's not really possible to do that anymore because that product has fully been depleted. So in that case, when you have multiple winning products, it is a much safer position for you. And this is also one of the reasons why I recommend general stores in 2020 and onwards, especially if you use Google Ads, because this will just leave you with a wide range of products to choose from, to test, and it won't really put you in a bad situation if you happen to just lose one winning product, because then you would have 10 other winning products that are selling for you by that time. So it's always a safer way to just have multiple winning products, and it's something that is much more smarter, in my opinion, compared to just running one product store. So you can run niche stores as well, but as a beginner or maybe even an intermediate, using Google Ads or maybe even Facebook, I highly recommend a general store. But this brings me to my next point, which is hiring too late. Now, this is one thing I really did because I didn't like wasting money and I wanted to keep as much profits as possible. What I did when I found my first winning product is I was doing the customer service, I was doing the ordering, I was doing the ads, I was speaking to my suppliers, and it was a big headache for me because I was not able to focus on the most important thing within my business, which is running the ads and making money. Because I was not able to focus on that also negatively impacted the amount of sales I was doing. Oftentimes I really didn't like what I was doing as a result, because I was just spending time dealing with angry customers and just ordering on AliExpress when I could have spent that time making new ad creatives or maybe expanding onto Google Ads, Pinterest ads, etc. So this is one of the most common dropshipping mistakes that a lot of people make. Just start hiring when you do start getting some traction, and it doesn't have to be a lot of traction. Just a few orders a day is enough to make that step into hiring somebody, because you need to trust yourself that once you hire somebody, you will put in that extra effort to get even more sales than you're already doing. A lot of people out there actually even hire when they're unprofitable or not even getting any sales. And that is a very bold step, but also a smart step, because then it kind of forces them to make everything work. And oftentimes it does end up working. So it may be a good idea to start looking into hiring a little bit earlier than you would personally feel comfortable with, because that would leave you with a lot of room to scale when it comes time, and to actually build a successful business. Because if you just continue to be scared, it's going to affect your mindset negatively and you have much lower chances of succeeding with Shopify. But this brings me to my next point, which is not using a private agent to fulfill my orders for too long, or using eBay or Amazon to fulfill those orders. I was heavily relying on just AliExpress in the beginning when I was scaling my winning products because I didn't know any better. I thought that dealing with agents or dealing with eBay or Amazon was just not feasible. The cost of the goods may be too high, I would not be able to scale, etc. And without doing any type of research, I just assumed these things and just didn't use them to my advantage. So what ended up happening is that I was just dealing with a bunch of angry customers. A lot of these orders were not coming on time because Chinese New Year does land during the Valentine's Day craze. And because of that, all of my orders were just getting delayed. There were a lot of chargebacks, disputes, etc. It could have all been avoided had I just used a private agent or simply found my product on eBay or Amazon. A lot of people believe that it's not really possible to do that, but that is far from the truth. If you're looking to find ways on how to fulfill orders from eBay or Amazon, I made a video on that you can check out on my channel after this one. But it's definitely possible to dropship from eBay or Amazon. That is what I do right now in 2020 and onwards. A lot of the products are actually the same price as you would find on AliExpress, sometimes even lower, which is a very big surprise to me, but it is definitely possible. So definitely look into doing private agents or eBay or Amazon to avoid dealing with chargebacks, refunds, disputes when you're scaling, because this was one of my worst mistakes. This brings me to my next mistake on the list, and that is not having multiple backup suppliers for winning products. No matter if you use a private agent or eBay or Amazon or AliExpress, you're going to find that one time or another, if you start doing a lot of orders, they are going to run out of stock. When that happens, it is a very, very big problem for you because then you're just sitting on a bunch of orders which are not getting shipped, and that's a very big hassle for you. In order to avoid that, just make sure to have multiple backup trustable suppliers that can ship your orders in case your main supplier goes out of stock. And this is again one of my worst mistakes that I did, because during scaling time, you want to be focusing on your ads and not having to deal with finding new suppliers. Because if you have a lot of orders to place, using any random supplier may also be a bad decision to go with. But definitely one of my worst mistakes. This brings me to my last mistake on the list, and that is using only one advertising platform. As I already mentioned, my main winning niche store was run on mostly Facebook ads, and for the longest time I just failed to expand onto Google ads or Bing ads or any other advertising platform because I was too scared to dive into them and learn more from them. This was one of my worst mistakes because I was just relying on Facebook. A lot of the times Facebook would not give me the desired results and I would end up going in a loss. This would have been avoided had I been using other platforms which were bringing me in some portion of the sales as well, because then I could at least be profitable on each given day. If you want to build a good dropshipping business in 2020 and onwards, it's extremely important that you find multiple different advertising platforms to use and not just rely on one, because then you really put yourself and your income at a very big risk. But this was my list of my worst dropshipping mistakes I've done to this date. If you found any type of value in this video, smash that like button and smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.